Ever since 2005, Anton Chigurh from the Cormac McCarthy novel No Country for Old Men, which was famously adapted into the Best Picture winning film of the same name in 2007 by the Coen brothers, has been deemed one of the greatest villains of the new millennium. And as I got into in my video on why people love the villain, which you can find a link in the description to, this is a character who's unlike any other depicted on the silver screen, displaying a warped sense of morality and justice, and not to mention one heck of a strange personality all around, that has left many absolutely fascinated by him. And today, using my very amateur skills as a writer, I would like to try and dissect, or at least try and explain, the inner workings of this character and exactly what he's thinking. Now, please do note that I am by no means a professional or expert on this subject, so if you're looking for somebody with more experience with this kind of thing, this might not be the video for you. And naturally there will be spoilers for both the movie and book ahead, so in case you don't want to know any critical plot details, you shouldn't proceed with this video. You have been warned. Okay, so one thing that can be established about Anton Chigurh right off the bat is that he is not like most other people. He kills some people indiscriminately while letting others go at the flip of a coin, says and does some truly odd things, and all around just doesn't even act very human. But to get perhaps the most notable thing about him out of the way first, the reason for Chigurh's letting people off in a coin toss is because he simply believes that he's an instrument of fate. He believes that there's no such thing as free will or choice, and that everything he does, as well as everything done around him, is specifically because fate designed it to be that way. This is why when he has a job to pull or is chasing down somebody, he will never listen to their pleas for mercy, and nothing they can say or do will ever persuade him to spare their lives, because he believes that it's their fate to die at his hand. It was fate that brought them to him so he could kill them. So to try and talk him out of it is pure nonsense in his eyes. As far as he's concerned, all events are predetermined and he's simply carrying out fate's will. Now, the only exception to this is if he comes across somebody he either wants to kill or feels he has to kill, but isn't somebody that he's been tasked with killing or has directly gotten in his way. Like the gas station clerk, for example. His biggest sin is just annoying him with small talk. He wasn't ordered to kill him, and he hasn't done anything to interfere with the task he's been given. If he'd refused to serve him, that would be a different story. But all he's done is simply annoy him. Therefore, he's not 100% sure if it's their fate to be killed by him or not. So he flips a coin to let fate tell him in black and white if he's supposed to kill them or not. And if the person guesses right, as the clerk does, then it isn't their fate to be killed by him and they live. And if they get it wrong, then it is their fate to be killed by him and he'll proceed to do so without an ounce of hesitation. Now, what's interesting to note is that in the movie version, Carla Jean argues against this exact point and instead insists that Chigurh does have free will and that the coin isn't a message from fate or some kind of god because he still gets to choose what he's going to do next. Sure, it's implied he doesn't listen, but you can tell it definitely gets him thinking. Now, tied into this is Chigurh's extremely warped sense of honor. Because when he's tasked with doing a job, he will see that job through to completion no matter what it takes. Will take out anyone who gets in his way and always keeps his word no matter what. If he makes a promise, he will keep it even if it's a major inconvenience to him and has nothing to do with the task he's been assigned to carry out, which shows that he puts a lot of value on his word, if not much else. Now, why he's this way is harder to figure out, but one possibility is that, as an instrument of fate, he sees any task, job, or promise he makes as something that must be carried out because fate has given him that job or put him in the situation to make that promise, meaning that according to his logic, it must be carried out no matter what. But if it is enough by proxy, he will still be willing to abandon it if a flipped coin tells him not to go through with it, which as he knows is the best he can do for Carla Jean after he promised Moss he would kill her if he didn't give himself up. Now there are others who believe that Chigurh doesn't go back on his word simply to keep his deadly reputation as a man you do not want to cross. But I personally think his beliefs on fate are at least part of the reason for that as well. But what's also notable about Chigurh is his seemingly insatiable bloodlust. Throughout both the book and movie, Chigurh is shown to just plow his way through people and really enjoys murdering them too. In the book in particular, he's shown to love watching people die and even makes a habit of talking to their dead or dying bodies as if he were talking about the weather. At one point, he even tries to kill a bird sitting on a bridge just for target practice, and is pretty annoyed when it gets away. And all of this is probably why he loves his signature cattle gun so much. Not just because it's silent, but because it allows him to get up close and personal with his victims. Though there are some people he isn't shown taking as much pleasure in killing, such as giving Carson Wells a chance to speak his piece before killing him, and actually being downright sympathetic to Carla Jean. In fact, she is the only person in the entire book he shows any sympathy for, as it's rather evident that he feels sorry for her and gives her the only chance he feels he can give to escape her fate, clearly not wanting to kill her. And when that doesn't work, he lets her know and understand why he's doing it, and only shoots her after she gets it, even showing something resembling happiness that she does understand. Now, it's this scene in particular that has fascinated many scholars, because Chigurh is depicted for the most part as a bloodthirsty psychopath, and yet he shows something resembling compassion towards this random woman and wants her to understand why he's going to kill her before he does. Now, why he feels this way is never explained, as it certainly has nothing to do with his beliefs on fate. Maybe he has a thing against killing women? Or maybe he does believe in the concept of an innocent bystander to an extent, and does feel a twinge of guilt in killing somebody he doesn't have a reason to, as petty a reason as he will accept. Because it's also worth noting that he doesn't kill the two boys who witness his car accident and instead just pays them off for a shirt in their silence rather than just killing them. Though, to be fair, in that case it really did serve his best interest to just bribe them and not draw the extra attention to himself. But still, his behavior towards Carla Jean is among the biggest things that leaves him even more of an enigma by the time it's over. And on that topic, another notable thing about Chigurh is his extreme intellect, especially when it comes to hunting down people. The way Cormac McCarthy describes his methods of sneaking around, deduction, self-care, And just the general way he does things shows a very calculating figure who both needs to satisfy his desire to kill, yet at the same time knows when it's best to just keep a low profile. And once again, the way he sneaks around hotel rooms, as well as his ability to track down somebody, even when they seemingly haven't left any trail, shows just how smart he really is. And on top of that, he knows when to give up. When Llewellyn Moss has him at gunpoint and tells him to drop his gun, he does everything he tells him instead of risking his life trying to get him quickly. And similarly, he's willing to wait until he heals from an injury and potentially let crucial time pass rather than jump right back into the fight and risk hurting himself further. Which is especially notable because, at least in the book, it's implied that he has a rather large tolerance for pain, or at least a very excellent talent for ignoring it. In other words, his stealth, combined with his intellect and patience, really does make for a terrifying person to have chasing after you. Because as Carson Wells says, once he's set his sights on killing someone, he will never stop until he's finally got them. In many ways, he almost comes across as what a human version of the Terminator would really look like. Because that's the other thing about him. His behavior towards people can be downright bizarre. He loves killing some people, but not others, believes himself to be nothing but a tool of something greater, doesn't mind having sophisticated, philosophical discussions with some people, but is willing to kill others for initiating small talk, and sometimes says the strangest things. And just for one example of that, in the book, when he finally does deliver the money, he starts taking a great deal of interest in a painting on the wall and almost starts acting like an art critic, despite the fact that he had never shown any interest in paintings before that. Or in a similar scene in the movie, when a terrified man asks if he's going to kill him, he simply says, "That depends. Do you see me?" And to make that even stranger, we never see what the final result of that is. We never find out what the man said, and what Chigurh did to him, if anything, in reply. To put it simply, there's something seriously wrong with this man, but it's the fact that it's very difficult to pinpoint what exactly that is that makes him so fascinating. Because, to be blunt, Chigurh doesn't even act like a human being. The closest he gets is when he talks to Carla Jean, and even then, that does nothing to change his mind or behavior. Even the description McCarthy gives through the eyes of Llewellyn Moss makes it crystal clear that strangeness just permeates off this man, and Javier Bardem is able to capture that very well. He doesn't exactly have the incredibly odd eyes the book describes him as having, but that obviously couldn't be helped. The point is, just by looking at this man, you can tell that something is off about him, and even his belief in fate only partially explains why he behaves the way he does. And as I pointed out in the aforementioned video, this has led to some pretty serious speculation that Chigurh might not even be human. Some have theorized that he might be an alien unsuccessfully pretending to be a human, or even that he might be some kind of ghost. And if you ask me, that second theory holds more water, because not only is he actually described as a ghost at one point when a policeman is explaining how impossible it is to capture him, but there's also his seemingly unexplainable escape from Belle at the very end of both the book and movie. What if he really did just disappear into thin air? But in all seriousness, I'm pretty sure that's not what Cormac McCarthy had in mind. Considering the kind of book it is, I honestly think that McCarthy was going for an extremely ruthless, unpredictable man that only acts slightly human at the best of times. And really, that's what makes the character so fascinating. Because as a man who's written books, I can safely say that a goal of most writers is to at least intrigue, if not downright fascinate, the reader with your characters. And in the pages of McCarthy's book lies a man who's so warped and inhuman that you can't help but want to know about him, to understand what goes on in that twisted mind of his, to figure out what he's thinking, and why exactly he behaves the way he does. And what makes him particularly interesting in this regard is that while he doesn't exactly fit any specific medical diagnosis, there have been people in real life known to act like him. Maybe not exactly like him, mind you, but carry quite a few traits of his. And all of that just proves to make him even more interesting and terrifying, because not only is he almost impossible to figure out, but a person like him could actually exist in real life. Basically, with Anton Chigurh, McCarthy achieved the delicate balance of making the character both almost completely inhuman in behavior, but also realistic enough so that anybody reading would know that it was possible that they could actually come across a man like him. And that, along with his extreme intelligence, warped sense of morality, and truly impossible to understand nature, really does make for a truly memorable and nightmare-inducing villain. And honestly, what's really impressive is that I pretty much only scratched the surface of this character. There's so much more that could be discussed about him, possibly even days worth of material. But because I don't want this video to be 10 hours long, I think I'll just leave it at that for the moment. Okay, that's everything I have to say for right now. So now I'd like to hear what you guys think. Did you find yourself absolutely fascinated by Anton Chigurh the first time you saw him or read about him? And what do you believe exactly goes on in that head of his? Please feel free to let me know whatever you think in the comments below. And like always, you are free to have your own opinions on this subject. Just because you watched the video doesn't mean you have to agree with it. And thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you all next time.